for notification and support this, our Government of India call for End for TB. The same way, we have also gone for community participation, and now we are having forums at the national level, at the state level, at the district level. And civil society people are brought in, because we can't do active surveillance without their support, without developing, because there is a stigmatization against this disease also, and that has to be addressed. So for stigmatization, for removing the stigmatization, community involvement is important, and so we are working for that also. As I yesterday also discussed, we are going for a Swachh Bharat mission, which is called as Clean India mission, and in which we are focusing on personal hygiene and societal hygiene. So both these aspects are also taken as far as research is concerned. We have now developed India TB Research Alliance, and in this research alliance, our Indian Council for Medical Research, which is headed by the Secretary of Medical Research, Government of India, and Department of Biotechnology, we are working on it, and we are working on vaccine, we are working on drugs, we are working on diagnostic tools. This is what we are trying to see to it. As I discussed with you, that new molecular diagnostic TrueNat is now operational. We have now 100 machines we have put on pilot project, and we'll go try to see how we can improve it. One more aspect this year we have added, that is the nutritional support to the patient. And we are, because you see, the tuberculosis hits mostly the people who are below poverty line or who are marginalized section of the society. And it is their responsibility to earn bread. And for that also, they have to work. And they leave their regimen as far as the treatment part is concerned. So we are giving them a support of 500 rupees per month till he is cured from tuberculosis. So that is how we are working. So this nutritional support is also there. We have also developed an intersectoral task force where other departments are brought in. Intersectoral, interministerial, intersectoral cooperation, coordination is we are emphasizing on it, and we are going for very active surveillance in areas where we find that the chances of tuberculosis may be more. So that those areas are also being undertaken for active surveillance. This is how we are working. We had a meeting in 2016 organized by SEARO, and we called to action, that was the slogan, and we went for a Delhi declaration. And after that also this year we had a meeting in Delhi. The world global leaders had come, and we had gone for NTB summit was there, and we have our Prime Minister has said that we are ready to support as far as capacity building is concerned to our neighboring countries or who needs the help, and we are also ready to give them the logistic supports also, so that can be also taken care. We all have to fight, as tuberculosis has got no barriers, so collectively we have to fight out. Yesterday one person had very beautifully put in when he said that the disease does not need any visa. Yes. So we all together have to collectively fight out tuberculosis, and India is ready to cooperate accordingly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for what's happening there, for giving hope for the countries around and globally. We really know that when India moves, and Indonesia will move, we move the world. Let's be very realistic, and thank you for this. And I know you have a hard stop. You are expected in another meeting, so I just wanted to emphasize that if His Excellency is leaving, it's not because he's bored.
I hope you will be excused. No, I'm very much interested to stay here.
Yes, I know.
But other engagements are there, so
yes.
I hope you'll excuse me. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Your name sounds to be very good, Maharani.
Yes. So, moving forward, Mr. Panigoro referred in the speech, and I think His Excellency the Minister Nadda as well, the region, SEARO region has a huge caseload, and it is spectacular to see that in spite of, in a way, facing huge challenges, this region decided, not now, triggered by the UNHLM, but before that, to really push the boundaries and say, we want to take a regional push on TB, and we want TB to be on our priorities. And that's because of you, Ardi. I keep saying that in every platform, and I will keep saying it, because we don't see the same commitment in other regional offices of WHO, and because of your team. So Ardi, can you share with us your vision? We will, yeah, in 5 minutes. No, because everyone needs to leave at 2:30, and you are all so amazing, and we have here.
I'll be very brief. Thanks, Lucica. I will not repeat what Lucica has said and what you've heard before and what you've been hearing for the last one day about Southeast Asia region having the highest burden of TB. We know it's almost 46%. But we need to move on, and we need to think, how do we address this? And what do we need to do now? We're talking of political commitment. Political commitment in our region has been very high. We've had ministers of health of our region get together. They adopted a Delhi declaration. They pledged that they would try their best to end TB by 2030, the Sustainable Development Goal target. After that, they did not stop, and the following year, as was mentioned by the Minister of Health of India and also by Lucica, there was a plan of action which was developed in the TB summit, where all ministers decided that they carved out a way of how they would move ahead and how they would be able to address this very pressing problem. I'd like to add here that we have some flagships in our region. There are 7 of them, but ministers of health of our region decided to add an 8th flagship, and that is ending TB. And that is extremely commendable, so I really appreciate and commend their energy, their commitment to this cause. As we calculated and we got down, we did a number of modeling exercises to see how could we move forward on this Delhi declaration and what ministers had already committed to do. And we realized that going into the various needs, that we really needed almost $2 billion annually to be able to address this problem. Now this sounds very huge, but this $2 billion is also what would come from domestic resources. And we have seen the largest amount in these years has really come from domestic funding, if we look at this $2 billion. Almost, we were able to mobilize 0.8 billion last year, out of which 0.5 came from the countries themselves. They increased their resources to help, something we've been trying for decades, but it really happened. And so that, I think, is something we need to congratulate all the ministers of our health of our region who've been able to do that. Now there is a gap, and we have had help from the Global Fund, and if we look at it, it's about 0.3 billion that has come from them. We also find that USAID has contributed almost 25 million a year, but we still find that gap. So we need to really fill that gap. Now, different countries of our region have different problems, and the burden differs in different countries, understandably, because we said, as I said before in another forum, we have the 2nd, 4th, and 7th most populated countries in the world in our region. And we also have countries which have a smaller population, 500,000. Now, when I see how should I move forward, of course, the larger countries deserve a lot of attention. But I do feel with additional funding of, say, about $150,000, we would be able to address the problem in Maldives. Maldives, if we see, has about 200 cases now. There is latent TB there. If we really put in effort and we put in the resources, this could be a country which could put an end to TB, and that's not such a huge amount. And since here we have those who are interested in ending TB, we have our representatives from the Global Fund, we have it from the private sector, Johnson & Johnson, we have from CDC, we have from USAID, we have from the World Economic Forum. I do feel this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity we shouldn't miss. At the moment, political commitment is very high. There's an energy among countries of the region to move forward on TB. Let's not miss this chance. Let's capitalize on it and let them not be impeded just by want of funds. Of course, they're putting in their own resources, but they need much more. And I feel together, if we work and we help them and we are all putting in our best, we should be able to end TB as decided. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ardi. And you mentioned the variety of the wide spectrum of caseload and population in the region. And we have here with us Mrs. Farzana from the mission of Maldives here. And we were, at least from Stop TB, very much working or interacting with the government and the colleagues in Maldives, as well as Bhutan and I hope also Sri Lanka, in making them the first countries with no TB. Because funny enough, or sad enough, is not actually funny, in spite of having very few cases and not just these three countries, we still don't have any country in the world that went to zero, defining zero not like really no case, but going towards a very limited number of cases. So, Farzana, can you share with us a few thoughts from Maldives?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Ministers, distinguished delegates. Let me take this opportunity to express our appreciation to the Government of Indonesia for their leadership on this important subject. I also thank the speakers, the ministers and others for their valuable discussion and the insight into the TB elimination at the national levels in their countries. Maldives, as rightly said, is a low prevalence country for all forms of TB, and we're among the 5 countries in the world to have achieved the global targets of 70% case detection and 85% cure rate. Currently, we observe close to 200 new TB cases annually. Reaffirming the commitments and the ambitious goals of ending TB in the Maldives by 2022, the President of Maldives last February launched the National Strategic Plan for ending TB. This goal we plan to achieve through multi-sectoral collaboration to provide comprehensive care along with essential support within and beyond the health sector. The multi-sector arrangements minimize the finance burden on health sector itself. For this purpose, the Minister of Health has established and convened a high-level multi-sectoral committee aimed at ensuring multi-stakeholder engagement. An effective TB response includes efficient TB diagnostics, drugs, digital technologies, and high standards of healthcare for all forms of TB, and ensures special attention is given to highly vulnerable populations such as migrants and people in closed settings, including prisons, drug rehabilitation centers, and state care institutions. This can be only achieved through universal access to well-coordinated TB services. One such effort that has served well in the Maldives is the initiative taken by the Maldives Correctional Services to regularly screen for TB in prisons and other correctional facilities. So that is a good initiative there. Despite much progress, much effort is still needed to combat the social stigma still faced by people. We need stronger civil society to engage people to come forward for treatment and complete their treatment course. And we need to address the financial gap, as has been discussed in achieving eliminating targets as laid out in our national strategic plan. Financial support from international partners at global and regional level could play an imperative role in catalyzing the implementation of the TB control activities at the national level. We also need to be vigilant to identify the factors that can lead to emergence of drug-resistant TB, which requires private sector engagement to link suspected cases to the national program. The success we have achieved in the Maldives towards eliminating TB lies at the high-level commitment, which has been expressed by all the ministers here, and the multi-sectoral engagement at all levels. That is the case for Maldives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have now a good lineup of partners that are all very important, I think, in our fight, and representing a very amazing, colorful palette of those that can be engaged. And speaking of that, I'm looking at you, Maraika, as the Chief of Staff of the Global Fund. And Global Fund is now the bigger, is not only supporting the TB interventions as the biggest external donor, but I would say it's a bigger activist helping us in TB going forward. So, you know, if you can tell us in 5 minutes, sort it all, the role of partnerships in mobilizing resources, you know, and helping to bridge the gap.
Thank you very much, Lucica, and honourable ministers, colleagues, friends, all protocols observed. I prepared a half-an-hour speech, Lucica, so I have to comply with
And the tape of slides.
And it's really nice because I think I've been, it feels like I'm among friends, because with a number of you I've been in meetings discussing TB. Wow, I think there's more people getting an emergency alert. So we've been discussing the political commitment in the Southeast Asia region in, I don't know what's happening. And in a number of sessions over the last few days, and it's not that I'm getting bored, because I think to hear about ministers and other high-level officials and civil society representatives to really talk about their commitment to NTB in their country is really very encouraging. So the Global Fund, as Lucica said, we are the biggest funder, and let me first talk a little bit about resources before I go to partnership, Lucica. So the Global Fund, we provide 2/3 of all external funding for TB, but it's important to keep in mind that the overwhelming majority of funding for TB is coming from domestic resources. So the Global Fund since 2002 has invested $6.3 billion in TB programs and an additional $1.6 billion in combined TB/HIV programs. So that's a lot of money, but still we are a fraction of the overall funding available, and most of it is coming from countries. But it has been helpful. One of the helpful things about the high-level meeting was that we got much more clarity what realistic funding needs are for TB, and it's very clear with the current funding envelope we will not be able to end TB. So it's important that domestic funding increases, and the example of India, the Minister of India, Minister Nadda, is always leaving before I'm praising him. So I hope that someone from the Indian Ministry or SEARO, you can tell him that again I praise the Minister for India's very strong political commitment, which is not just in word but also in financial resources. We also need more external resources. Two comments there. At the moment, well, obviously very grateful to India again for hosting the prep meeting for the Global Fund replenishment. It's incredibly important. So we really hope that with the good replenishment the Global Fund can do more. But also the external funding base is pretty small because it's the Global Fund, it's the US government, and apart from that it's very little external funding. So we need to expand upon it. But it's also important that